Level 1. The tiny lock. The lookout. You're 13. Hot asphalt melts through your thin counterfeit sneakers. You are a tiny lock, a ghost hovering on the extreme invisible periphery of the neighborhood. You have exactly 14 seconds. The heavy reinforced tires of an LAPD crash unit cruiser are screeching around the blind corner of Florence Avenue, running dark without their sirens. You are holding a stolen, unregistered .38 caliber revolver wrapped in an oily blue rag. The metal is heavy. It smells of burnt carbon. If the police spotlight hits your face while you hold this weapon, you take a mandatory felony possession charge, and your life is mathematically over before your voice even drops. You freeze behind a rusted, overflowing dumpster. The panic is a physical weight sitting on your sternum. A stray, emaciated pit bull growls loudly from the shadows of the alleyway. A live threat. If the dog barks, the officers will shine the light directly into your corner. You cannot breathe. You close your eyes. Suddenly, a massive, calloused hand grabs the back of your collar. It's Big O. He is 30 years old, a respected frontline soldier, and he always wears a heavy silver watch with a completely shattered glass face. He never fixes it. He snatches the gun from your trembling fingers, shoves it deep into a PVC drainage pipe, and pushes you down onto a plastic milk crate. "Sit still," he whispers. The cruiser's 2 million candle power spotlight sweeps over your face. The light is blinding, white, and invasive. The cruiser rolls past, the officers looking right through you. You survive. Big O pulls the gun back out of the pipe. He looks down at his shattered watch. "Time is broken anyway, little homie," he says, his voice devoid of any romance. You look at him like he is a mythological deity. You want the blue rag. You believe it is a magical cape that will make you bulletproof. You don't realize it is a high-visibility target painted directly onto your heart. Meanwhile, Detective Miller, LAPD Gang Narcotics Division, South Central. He stares at a Polaroid photograph of an unclaimed .38 caliber revolver found in a storm drain 3 blocks over. He clicks a heavy tungsten pen against his aluminum clipboard. Click, click. "They're using the 7th graders to hold the iron now," he says to the empty, fluorescent-lit precinct room. The ink bleeds into the cheap paper. Level 2. The put-on, the BG/baby gangster. You're 15. Hot copper floods your throat before you even hit the pavement. This is the put-on, the initiation. The jumping in. You are officially trading your civilian childhood for a street moniker. You have exactly 31 seconds. You must endure a full-force, coordinated physical assault from 4 older, heavier gang members. The rules of the concrete are ancient and mathematically absolute. If you fall to your knees, the clock resets to 0. If you quit, you are permanently exiled, branded a coward in the only socioeconomic ecosystem you have ever known. A heavy steel-toed work boot aims directly for your left temple. A live, lethal threat. You violently twist your neck, taking the agonizing, bone-rattling impact on your left shoulder blade instead. You swing wildly, blindly, fueled by pure, unadulterated adrenaline. Your knuckles crack against someone's jaw. The pain in your hand is a blinding, white-hot flash. Silent Mac, an older enforcer who breathes with a sharp, terrifying whistle through his gold teeth, drives a knee directly into your floating ribs. You hear the cartilage snap. You lock your legs. You refuse to drop. You taste the dirt and the blood. "Time!" a voice shouts from the shadows. The violence stops instantly, as if a switch was flipped. They pull you up from the filthy, blood-stained pavement. Big O steps forward, his shattered watch catching the amber light of the street lamp. He hands you a freshly folded, perfectly creased blue bandana. "Welcome to the hood, Crip," he says. You are battered, deeply concussed, and bleeding internally. You're officially a baby gangster. The physical fear of the outside world is completely gone, replaced entirely by a much deeper, heavier terror. The absolute fear of failing your new brothers. Meanwhile, Miller stands in the harsh, sterile glare of the Martin Luther King Jr. Community Hospital emergency room, He looks at a 15-year-old boy sitting on a paper-lined bed with a cracked rib, refusing to speak a single word to the triage nurse. Miller clicks his tungsten pen. Click, click. He memorizes the geometry of the boy's bruised face. He took his beating. He belongs to the set now, Miller whispers, writing a new name in his black notebook. Level 3. The soldier, the shooter. You're 17. The mechanical recoil of the Glock 19 violently snaps your wrist backward. You are no longer a lookout. You are the frontline infantry in a hyper-localized, endless urban war. You are sitting in the back seat of a stolen 2004 Honda Civic. The interior smells heavily of black ice air freshener and the sharp metallic scent of burnt gunpowder. You have exactly 9 seconds. You just fired suppressing rounds into a crowd of rival bloods standing on a crowded porch. If the driver doesn't clear the intersection in 9 seconds, the rival block will mobilize their heavy weapons and return fire with military-grade rifles. The driver slams the accelerator. A loud, sickening metallic click stops your heart. The slide of your Glock catches. A stovepipe jam. A live 9mm round is wedged sideways in the ejection port. A rival shooter steps off the porch, raising an AK-47 into the street lamp's glow. A live threat aimed directly at your head. You are completely defenseless. Big O is riding in the passenger seat. He doesn't yell. He doesn't panic. He doesn't even look back. Clear it, rack it. Again, he says calmly, tapping the shattered glass of his watch against the dashboard. You slap the ejection port, rip the slide back, clear the jam, and fire one final suppression round through the shattered rear window. The Honda fishtails wildly around the corner, the tires screaming against the asphalt. You survive. Your ears ring violently, a high-pitched whine that drowns out the sirens in the distance. You stare at your shaking, powder-stained hands. You just tried to take a human life over a stretch of pavement that none of you even hold the title to. The neighborhood applauds you when you return. No medals are given, no commendations are recorded. You sit in the pitch-black dark of your bedroom for 4 hours, unable to stop shaking. You have crossed the absolute psychological point of no return. Meanwhile, Miller crouches on the wet asphalt of the rival block, shining a tactical flashlight on 3 brass 9mm shell casings. He bags them meticulously with gloved hands. He clicks his tungsten pen. Click, click. The grouping is tight. The shooter was terrified, his heart was racing, but he didn't close his eyes when he pulled the trigger, Miller notes into his digital dictaphone. The files are getting thicker. The ballistics are matching. Level 4. The YG, young gangster / corner boss. You're 20. Midday humidity bakes the bitter chemical smell of cooked crack cocaine directly into your pores. You command the intersection now. You are a YG, a young gangster. You do not ride in the stolen cars doing drive-bys anymore. You manage the localized microeconomy of the set. You oversee a crew of 6 younger runners. You have exactly 4 minutes. You need to move 120 grams of product before the 3 p.m. shift change of the 77th Division Patrol Cops. If you miss the window, the fresh, aggressive officers will sweep the block and catch you holding a 20-year mandatory minimum sentence in your cargo pockets. A frantic, emaciated addict approaches your lead runner on the corner. The addict's hands are shaking violently. He pulls a rusted, sharpened flathead screwdriver from his jacket, demanding the product for free. A live, unpredictable threat right in front of your operation. You don't pull a gun. Pulling a gun brings the police. You step out from the shadows of the liquor store awning. You project an aura of absolute, terrifying, calculated violence. You grab the addict by the wrist, twist the screwdriver out of his hand with a sickening pop of his joint, and shove him face first into the chain-link fence. You secure the product. You secure the corner. The patrol cars roll past exactly 3 minutes later. You check the cash. It perfectly aligns with the inventory down to the last crumpled $10 bill. Nobody notices the disaster you just averted. You pay your runners, you take your 40% cut, and you buy a $400 pair of designer sneakers. The fear has mutated. The fear is no longer about catching a stray bullet in the dark. The fear is about losing the product, losing the money, and facing the wrath of the older generation who depend on your revenue stream. Before we go further, if you've made it this far, comment what career you want to see next. Hit that like button right now and subscribe. We upload every single day. Meanwhile, Miller sits in the sweltering heat of an unmarked surveillance van, looking through a high-powered telephoto lens. He watches you disarm the addict with surgical precision. He clicks his tungsten pen. Click, click. He's not just shooting anymore. He's managing the logistics. The structure is promoting him. He's a supervisor now, Miller logs. He takes a photograph of you handing cash to the runners. Level 5. The OYG, the Enforcer. You're 24. The tight leather of your weighted tactical gloves restricts the swelling in your chronically bruised knuckles. You are an OYG, an original young gangster. You are the Enforcer. Your sole job is internal discipline. You have exactly 12 hours. $18,000 in banded cash is missing from the communal stash house. If you do not recover the money or produce the thief in 12 hours, the Mexican cartel liaison will permanently sever your set's wholesale supply line. The entire neighborhood economy will collapse, and the senior bosses will hold you personally responsible. You are standing in a soundproofed, unfinished basement. Ray, a 19-year-old frontline soldier from your own block, sits zip-tied to a metal folding chair. He constantly, nervously, scratches a faded teardrop tattoo on his neck. He stole the money to buy a luxury car to impress a girl. He is weeping. The live threat in this room is not the cartel. The threat is the room itself. 3 other veteran soldiers are standing in the shadows, watching your face. If you show an ounce of mercy to Ray, they will view you as compromised and weak. They will kill you to take your rank. You wrap a heavy steel padlock chain around your fist. You explain to Ray in a terrifyingly calm voice that the set is a machine, and machines do not tolerate broken gears. You swing. You shatter his orbital bone. You beat him until the cartilage in his nose gives way, until he finally breaks and gives up the location of the hidden cash. You retrieve the money. You save the cartel connection. You wash the blood off your hands in a fluorescent-lit gas station bathroom sink. You look in the mirror. You don't see a soldier fighting for his neighborhood anymore. You see a cold, mechanical sociopath. You protect the Brotherhood by systematically destroying the brothers. The fear of external enemies has completely vanished. You are now utterly terrified of the monster you had to become to survive your own promotion. Meanwhile, Miller reads the confidential hospital admission report for a 19-year-old male with a crushed orbital bone and severe facial lacerations. The victim refuses to cooperate with investigators. Miller clicks his tungsten pen. Click. Click. They're eating their own. The internal discipline is tightening. He's enforcing the tax now. He crossed the line, Miller writes on the precinct whiteboard, drawing a red line connecting your photo to Ray's. Level 6. The Hustler, the Earner. You're 29. The aggressive, freezing air conditioning of the commercial bank lobby dries the cold sweat instantly on the back of your neck. You are the Earner. You have graduated from the bloody pavement. You wear a tailored button-down shirt. You meticulously cover the gang tattoos on your forearms with expensive silk fabric. You have exactly 48 hours. You need to legitimize $60,000 of illicit drug revenue through your storefront barbershop before the state tax board conducts a random quarterly audit. If the numbers don't perfectly match the deposit slips, the IRS initiates a federal money laundering and RICO investigation. You hand the thick, heavy stack of banded $100 bills to the bank teller. A live threat. She pauses. She stares at the deposit slip. She touches her earpiece, her eyes darting to the computer screen. The silence stretches for 3 agonizing, suffocating seconds. Your heart rate spikes to 140. You prepare to sprint for the heavy glass doors, abandoning the cash. She smiles. "Have a great day, sir," she says, stamping the receipt with a loud thud. The transaction clears. The money is clean. You walk to your luxury-leased SUV in the parking lot. The fear has entirely mutated again. You no longer fear the flashing lights of a local police cruiser. You're terrified of a crisp white envelope arriving in the mail from the federal government. You are moving hundreds of kilos of wholesale product across state lines, funding the war chest of the entire neighborhood. You are a self-made millionaire who cannot leave his own zip code without a 3-car, heavily armed security detail. The money didn't buy you freedom. It bought you a much more expensive, heavily monitored, paranoid cage. Meanwhile, Miller sits at a desk covered in complex financial subpoenas. He traces the cash deposits from the neighborhood barbershop to a Shell LLC registered in Delaware. He clicks his tungsten pen. Click, click. He moved off the corner. He's washing the blood out of the money. We don't need a patrolman to catch him anymore. We need a forensic accountant, Miller says, picking up the phone to call the FBI liaison. Level 7. The Shotcaller, the front boss. You're 34. The dead, heavy silence in the soundproofed VIP room of the strip club suffocates the oxygen directly out of your lungs. You are the Shotcaller. You command the lives, finances, and destinies of over 200 active gang members. You have exactly 12 minutes. You are negotiating a territorial ceasefire with the Shotcaller of a massive rival East Side Crips set. If you do not reach an agreement in 12 minutes, his soldiers will execute a coordinated drive-by shooting on a crowded neighborhood park where children are playing. A 16-year-old soldier standing behind the rival boss twitches his hand toward his waistband. A live, unpredictable threat. Your bodyguards instantly tense, their hands moving to their concealed holsters. You don't flinch, you don't break eye contact, you lock eyes with the rival boss. T-Bone, a man who always violently taps his left foot against the floor when he lies, promises that his men will stand down if you surrender 3 blocks of highly lucrative distribution territory. You watch his foot. It is perfectly still. He is telling the truth. You agree. You give away the territory. You sign a treaty written in invisible blood. You step out into the neon-lit parking lot. You stopped a massacre. You saved dozens of innocent lives. Nobody will ever know. The young, aggressive soldiers in your own set will call you a coward behind your back for giving up the lucrative blocks. You absorb their hatred. You swallow the disrespect. Command is not a privilege or a crown. Command is the unbearable, crushing weight of absorbing the sins and the egos of 200 armed psychopaths. You dictate who lives and who dies, but you belong entirely to the vicious politics of the pavement. Meanwhile, Miller listens to the muffled, static-filled audio from a confidential informant's wiretap. He hears the territorial concession. He clicks his tungsten pen. Click, click. He traded the cash blocks for peace. He's thinking like a CEO, not a gangster. He's managing the risk. The RICO case is fully ripe, Miller types into the federal database. Level 8, the OG. The reckoning? You're 42. The cold, bitter winter rain turns the old bullet fragments embedded in your hip into shards of jagged, agonizing ice. You sit at the head of a cheap folding table in a deserted, cavernous warehouse. You are the original gangster. You have exactly 3 minutes. The cartel auditing crew has discovered a massive $42,000 discrepancy in the obshchak, the communal defense fund used to pay for defense lawyers and prison commissary. The thief has been caught. It is Big O, your mentor, the man who handed you your first gun and saved your life in the alley 29 years ago. He is 59 years old now, his hair entirely gray. He sits across from you. He stole the money to pay for his 6-year-old granddaughter's experimental leukemia treatments. 50 younger, heavily armed, ruthless soldiers are standing in the shadows of the warehouse, watching your face. A live threat to the throne. The rules of the syndicate are ancient and mathematically absolute. Theft from the communal fund is an immediate, non-negotiable death sentence. If you show mercy to the man who saved your life, the younger generation will view you as compromised and sentimental. They will execute you both before you reach the parking lot. You stare at Big O. He is wearing the same heavy silver watch with the shattered glass face. He looks at you. He taps the shattered glass twice, and he gives you a microscopic, almost imperceptible nod of his head. He accepts his fate. He is telling you to do your job. You close your eyes. You nod back to your enforcer standing in the shadows. The gunshot is deafening in the empty warehouse, echoing off the steel beams. You sign the death warrant of your own father figure to maintain the structural integrity of a machine that systematically destroys everything it touches. The fear of getting caught is completely gone. There is only an absolute, crushing, inescapable guilt. You have finally become the ultimate monster. Meanwhile, Miller stands over a body in a rain-slicked industrial park. The water washes the blood into the storm drain. He pulls back the tarp. He looks at the victim's wrist. The heavy silver watch is missing. Miller clicks his tungsten pen. Click, click. He greenlit his own mentor. He severed the absolute last human tie to his own soul. It's time to take him down. Execute the warrants. Level 9, the OOG, the prison boss. You're 50. The 800-pound solid steel door of the maximum security cell block slams shut with a concussive shockwave that rattles your molars. The feds finally brought the 400-page RICO indictment. You are serving a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. You are an OOG, a double original gangster. You have exactly 24 minutes of combined yard time to orchestrate a massive, coordinated riot. If the riot doesn't happen, a targeted assassination against one of your key financial lieutenants will be carried out by a rival faction, crippling your outside revenue stream. You step onto the concrete yard. A massive Aryan Brotherhood shotcaller walks deliberately toward you across the pavement, his hand concealed inside a folded white towel, a shank, a live, immediate threat to your life. You don't move. You give a subtle two-finger hand signal. 6 of your soldiers intercept the man instantly, violently driving him face first into the chain-link fence. The guard tower sirens blare. The heavy tear gas canisters explode in the air, filling the yard with burning white smoke. The yard descends into absolute screaming chaos. The assassination is thwarted. The distraction works. You sit on your thin metal bunk in your 7-by-9-foot concrete cage. The state stripped you of your freedom, your wealth, and your name, but they allowed you to keep your authority. You run a transnational criminal syndicate from a concrete box. You issue whispered orders through plumbing pipes that result in bodies dropping on streets you will never breathe the air of again. But the power is entirely, overwhelmingly meaningless. You rule a kingdom of the damned, surrounded by men who are mathematically guaranteed to die in a cage. Meanwhile, Miller sits at his desk at the federal building. He signs a massive stack of federal prison transfer documents. He packs his personal belongings into a brown cardboard box. He takes the heavy tungsten pen and puts it in his front pocket. He's in Pelican Bay, SHU. The operation is closed. The street is someone else's problem now, Miller says to the empty room. He retires. The hunt is over. Level 10, the EOG, the ghost. You're 62. The fluorescent ceiling light in the security housing unit buzzes with a high-pitched eternal frequency that drills directly into your brainstem. Time is completely dead. You are locked in 23-hour solitary confinement. There are no gang wars here. There is no money. There is no territory. There is absolutely no sound. You sit on the edge of a thin, heavily stained mattress. You hold a contraband item smuggled in years ago through the internal prison network. It is Big O's heavy silver watch with the shattered glass face. You trace your thumb over the jagged, broken edges of the glass. The glass cuts your skin. You let it bleed. The pain is the only physical sensation that proves you are still alive. You realize the ultimate, horrifying truth of your entire existence. Big O didn't steal the money because he was greedy. He stole the money and let himself get caught to try and show you the exit, to force you to realize that the rules were a lie, that the Brotherhood was an illusion, that the money couldn't save his granddaughter. And you killed him to protect a bureaucratic system that eventually buried you alive anyway. You receive a letter from a young inmate. The neighborhood you bled for, the streets you ordered murders over, doesn't even exist anymore. It was gentrified and sold to tech developers a decade ago. The corners are coffee shops. You sacrificed your soul to become the absolute king of an empire built entirely of dust. You beat the rival sets. You survived the street wars. You climbed to the absolute apex of the hierarchy, and your reward is an eternity of absolute sensory deprivation. You look at the shattered watch. The concrete swallowed you whole. You were never the king of the streets. You were just the architect of your own tomb.